All right, welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because we are looking at something absolutely fascinating. When you watch Argentina play on the world stage right now, it's incredibly easy to just sit back, relax, and chalk all their success up to Messi magic. I mean, the man is a living legend, right? But if you stop there, you're missing the real story. Behind the highlight reels is a masterclass in tactical evolution, psychological dominance, and brilliant game management. In this explainer, we're going to look at the anatomy of this absolute juggernaut of a team. We'll explore the deep tactical and cultural reasons why they are dominating well beyond just the superstar narratives. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to look at the echoes of 1986, break down their fluid tactics, see how Lionel Scaloni manages egos, examine their team culture, learn how they avoid the champion's curse, and finally analyze their elite defensive game management.
All right, part one, echoes of the 1986 legacy. To really understand the psychological weight and honestly, the almost mythical aura surrounding this current team, we have to look back exactly 40 years. Look at the sheer poetry of this timeline. On June 22, 1986, at the Azteca Stadium in Mexico, Diego Maradona scored the infamous Hand of God goal against England. It literally defined a generation. Now, fast forward exactly 40 years to the day, June 22, 2026, in a World Cup co-hosted by Mexico, the US, and Canada. We witnessed Lionel Messi, at 38 years old, scoring his 18th World Cup goal, officially breaking Miroslav Klose's all-time men's record. And get this, 12 of those goals came after he turned 30. No way, right? But here's the thing. These massive historical expectations don't crush this current team. Instead, they actually shape a leadership style that totally embraces the pressure. These top players aren't fazed by the ghosts of the past. They have this rock-solid self-belief that just silences the doubters, allowing them to go out there and enjoy pure football.
Moving right along to part two, fluid tactics versus rigid systems. So shifting gears to the reality of modern football, let me pose a kind of simple question to you. What exactly is Argentina's formation? Honestly, if you watch football every single day, it'd still be incredibly hard for you to give me a definitive answer. Where does Messi actually play? Again, hard to pin down. Why? Because this team shapeshifts. Rather than sticking to strict zones, they maintain their shape to this deep spatial awareness and constant micro-adjustments based on visual triggers from their teammates. If they're up 1-0, they might drop lower. In other parts of the game, they press high. They speed up, they slow down. They're managing moments rather than just blindly adhering to a rigid tactical map.
And this quote right here captures their vibe perfectly. Go and play football like you used to play in the streets. Instead of relying on a strict blueprint or assigned fixed formations, they operate on pure intelligence. It's almost an anti-modern philosophy. It's super old school. They are playing football in its absolute purest form, completely devoid of fear, relying on sharpness and just great passing. What you should really take away from this is that when you watch them play, you aren't watching a math equation being solved, you are watching pure instinctual expression.
Because think about the modern game. Teams are obsessed with strict systems, right? Everyone is forced to play out from the back. Wingers are constantly coming inside rather than taking defenders on, which creates all this overcrowding and forced underlaps. It's highly mechanical, almost like watching perfectly programmed, albeit slightly boring robots. Now, contrast that with Argentina's flowing wave. They rely on experienced players who understand the collective goal on a moment-to-moment basis. If the ball is on one side of the pitch, they don't look over to the coach's bench waiting for a line of code to execute. They rely on instinct. They just know what to do. They play with a freedom and a love for the game that feels entirely organic.
Which brings us to part three, Scaloni manages club egos.
Now, you absolutely cannot have that level of fluid, instinctual harmony without a mastermind pulling the strings and keeping everyone grounded. Manager Lionel Scaloni's role in this tactical fluidity, it cannot be overstated. Just think about the locker room he's managing. You're dealing with massive egos, top-level players who spend their regular seasons at elite, highly competitive clubs, often playing as fierce rivals against one another. Scaloni's vital responsibility is forging them into a single, egoless unit. He fosters a profound understanding that the country is bigger than whatever club they play for. He's literally built a united pack of wolves. Getting top-tier players to entirely buy into a collective vision requires a remarkably strong manager, and Scaloni has implemented a camp culture where everyone is absolutely dialed in.
All right, part four, desire drives team culture.
Because look, a manager's vision only goes so far without player buy-in. This brings us to how individual desire, specifically from the absolute top of the roster, sets the baseline performance standard for every single player on the pitch. Let's look at a specific micro-anecdote from their game against Austria to ground this in reality. We all know Messi for his technical ability, right? The top corner goals, the unbelievable free kicks.
But in this match, arguably the greatest player of all time misses a shot. And what does he do? Does he complain? No. He is the first to react. He immediately executes a slide tackle to win the ball back. He just wanted it more than everybody else. And when the undisputed leader of your team, a literal footballing god, is willing to slide tackle and do the dirty work, it forces the rest of the squad into total, willing submission to the collective effort. The rest of the guys look at that and think, well, no problem. I'll do as I'm told. If he is just a team member working that hard, then I have to do the exact same thing. It creates an environment where everyone elevates their game. The players put on that national jersey and a switch just flips. They give 130%. Think about your own workplace or team, you know? When the highest performer is down there doing the grunt work, it entirely eliminates anyone else's excuse to slack off. That right there, that is leadership. Moving into part 5, evolving the championship squad. So transitioning from the culture of the team, let's look at a fascinating historical data point about the squad's composition. Look at this brutal stale champion curse. Over the last 25 years, defending a World Cup title has been an absolute nightmare. France won in '98, out in the group stage in 2002. Italy won in 2006, out in the groups in 2010. Spain in 2010, out in 2014. Germany in 2014, out in 2018. It's crazy. But why does this happen? Usually, it's because a squad just gets stale. Managers rely on 80 to 90% of the exact same players, relying on aging patterns. They lack fresh legs, their passing patterns become totally predictable, and opponents figure out exactly how to set up against them. And yet, Scaloni retained 18 players from his previous World Cup winning squad. 18 out of 26. He's still starting veterans like Nicolas Otamendi. So how on earth are they defying this stale champion trend without completely overhauling the personnel? Well, they did it by radically evolving their tactical application. Specifically, they identified that their foundational weakness was their defense, and they systematically transformed it. Which perfectly leads us to part 6, elite defensive game management. Let's put our coaches' hats on for a second and really evaluate this defensive discipline. Look at the stark contrast here. Back in 2022, they were, well, kind of chaotic. When they conceded a goal, they often crumbled. Against Saudi Arabia, they lost. Against Australia, after conceding, they looked incredibly uncomfortable. Against the Netherlands and France, they famously blew 2-0 leads and had to rely on those nail-biting penalty shootouts. But look at their 2026 defense now. The game management is staggering. They aren't relying on scraping by anymore. They are suffocating passing lanes, controlling the tempo, and systematically shutting opponents out from minute 1 to minute 90 with absolute total composure. Let's break down exactly how they completely shut down Austria's attack, essentially turning defensive game management into a collective art form. Step 1. Isolate the physical threats. Austria brought on Marco Arnautovic, right? Big physical striker. Scaloni used Lisandro Martinez to completely neutralize him in aerial duels, ensuring Austria couldn't build attacks that way. Step 2. Utilize your midfielders to manage the pressure. You have guys like Alexis Mac Allister running the game from deep, and Enzo Fernandez dropping back to support the defense, winning ground duels and relieving that pressure. And the result? Step 3. Goalkeeper Emi Martinez is protected so thoroughly that across multiple games, you honestly struggle to remember him having to make a single dangerous save. It is a collective defensive mechanism operating at absolute peak efficiency. But as amazing as this transformation has been, it leaves us with a massive looming question. We've seen their tactical fluidity, Scaloni's masterclass in unity, their undeniable desire, and this incredibly evolved defensive composure. But they are relying heavily on veteran players. So as the tournament progresses and the games come thicker and faster against potentially younger, fresher teams, can these older legs actually maintain this tactical mastery? Can they rest and recover fast enough to definitively crush the champion's curse and lift the trophy once again? It is the ultimate test of an aging superpower against the ticking clock of modern football. I absolutely cannot wait to watch their next match to find out. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.